Imagine pouring a glass of water for your child, watching the ice cubes crack and swirl, never once questioning the clarity. It tastes clean, it looks pure, it flows from the tap like it always has. Now imagine that same glass carrying something invisible, something odorless, colorless, and patient, slipping past your senses, settling into your body, waiting. For the people of Flint, Michigan, that imagination wasn't a metaphor. It was their kitchen sink. The change began quietly, almost bureaucratically, a decision buried in paperwork, a cost-saving measure, a new water source. Officials assured residents the switch was temporary, safe, responsible. The Flint River would serve the city while a new pipeline was constructed. On paper, it was simple math. In reality, it was chemistry. Within weeks, something felt wrong. The water ran brown. It smelled metallic, like rust and earth. Parents posted photos online of bathtubs stained orange, of children emerging from baths with rashes creeping across their skin. When they called city offices, they were told the water was fine. When they complained about the taste, they were told it was aesthetic, not dangerous. When they asked for tests, they were handed printouts that said everything was within federal limits. But water doesn't lie. It reacts. The Flint River, untreated with proper corrosion controls, began chewing through the city's aging pipes. Inside those pipes was a century of history: iron, steel, and lead. And as the river coursed through them, it stripped away protective layers like sandpaper, exposing raw metal, lead, a neurotoxin once used because it was flexible and cheap, began dissolving into the water supply. It flowed into schools, into hospitals, into coffee makers and baby bottles. It accumulated in bloodstreams, especially small ones. Pediatricians started noticing patterns. Elevated lead levels in children that hadn't been there before. Numbers doubling, tripling. Lead doesn't cause dramatic collapse. It whispers. It dulls cognitive development. It chips away at impulse control. It embeds itself in bone. The damage is often irreversible. But when doctors raised concerns, they were met with resistance. State agencies produced their own studies, claiming the data was exaggerated, the sampling flawed. The water met standards. They said, trust the system. Residents did not. Mothers became investigators. They collected vials of tap water and mailed them to independent labs. Volunteers and scientists from outside the city arrived with test kits and clipboards. They went door to door, documenting what officials dismissed, and the numbers came back undeniable. Lead levels in some homes were off the charts, not just above safety thresholds, but hundreds, even thousands of parts per billion. In one house, the water tested so toxic it was classified as hazardous waste. The story began to leak beyond city limits. Emails surfaced. Internal memos revealed that officials had known about corrosion risks. Experts had warned that, without anti-corrosion treatment, the pipes would degrade. The treatment would have cost about $100 a day. Instead, the city saved money and paid for it in blood. Meanwhile, another threat brewed in the shadows. The corrosive water didn't just release lead. It created conditions ripe for bacteria. Legionella, a deadly pathogen that thrives in warm, stagnant water systems, spread through the city. An outbreak followed. Dozens fell ill. At least 12 people died. Families were told it was unfortunate, complex, under investigation. The link to the water was slow to surface, slower still to be acknowledged. Trust eroded faster than the pipes. Town hall meetings turned explosive. Residents held up jars of discolored water before cameras and demanded answers. Officials insisted everything was under control. The phrase "safe to drink" echoed through press conferences, even as bottled water distribution centers lined the streets. The disconnect felt surreal, a government declaring safety while citizens refused to shower. Children became the face of the crisis, tiny arms extended for blood tests. Charts projected on screens showed spikes that couldn't be explained away. A generation marked by an invisible contaminant, and still, the machinery of denial moved methodically, slowly. Defensively, it wasn't until national attention locked onto Flint that the dam broke. Independent researchers from Virginia Tech confirmed what residents had been saying for months. The Environmental Protection Agency grew louder. Whistleblowers stepped forward. The governor declared a state of emergency. The city switched back to its original water source, but by then, the damage was done. Pipes had been scarred. Bodies had been exposed. Faith had been fractured. But the most unsettling part wasn't the science. It was the timeline. For over a year, families drank from taps that were quietly poisoning them. For over a year, complaints were minimized, data was spun, and responsibility was diffused across layers of bureaucracy. No explosion marked the disaster. No sirens warned the city. It was a slow-motion catastrophe measured in parts per billion and pediatric charts. Years later, crews began the massive task of excavating and replacing thousands of lead service lines. Streets were torn open. Front lawns dug into trenches. The infrastructure that once hid beneath the surface was dragged into daylight, corroded, brittle, incriminating. Each pipe removed felt like an artifact from a crime scene. Court cases followed. Charges were filed against state and local officials. Some were dismissed. Others lingered. The legal battle stretched on, complex and technical, mirroring the chemistry that caused it all. Settlements were announced, hundreds of millions allocated to victims. Money for health monitoring, money for education, money attempting to quantify damage that can't be seen on an X-ray. Today, the water in Flint meets federal standards. Faucets run clear. Filters sit on sinks like quiet sentinels. But memory doesn't filter so easily. Parents still hesitate before filling a glass. Children who were toddlers during the crisis are now teenagers, their development tracked by researchers. The city carries a scar that doesn't fade with infrastructure upgrades. What happened in Flint wasn't immediate. It didn't roar, it seeped, it passed through copper and lead, through arteries and classrooms, through denial and disbelief. It revealed how something as ordinary as turning a handle can conceal a chain reaction of decisions made far from the kitchen sink. And somewhere in the echo of running water, there's a lingering question that refuses to disappear. If something so basic, so essential, so trusted can turn toxic without warning, how would you know?